I am tired. I am trying to fix my health. But as I do so, I'm coming back to these pillars. I'm like, let's address elemental design, circadian rhythm, gut health, sleep, mindful medicine, chest, diet. Like, let's put every pillar back in place and rebuild vibrant health for energy. Hello and welcome to the Inflammation Code podcast. It's me, your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. Let's dive right in. Today's going to be a solo episode, and I thought a lot about this series of solo episodes that I'm going to be giving you. My goal is to do them every other week. Let's see, consistency, I'm going to try. And the topics are going to be around how we can build the vibrant health we all deserve. And today's topic is the kind of fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. Because so many people come to me who are struggling, fatigue, chronic fatigue, they're tired. Especially if you're perimenopause, menopause, past 40, you're like, what is this new level of energy? And where did my original batteries of energy go? And can I access all of those again? Like, what's happening here? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to dive in. So let's kick this off. I'm going to start by sharing with you a moment that I will never forget. It was 2016, and I had just launched my supplement company. And at that time, I was a road warrior. I was going door to door to these orthopedic offices. I was pitching my formulas to doctors, most of whom did not want to hear about it. They were like, who is this girl and why is she talking to me about turmeric? I normally hear about devices to implant in people. And I was doing this day after day, year after year. And at that time, I was bone dead tired. But here's what was strange. I was sleeping 8 hours a night. I was eating pretty well. I was taking my own supplements and all sorts of good supplements. And every single morning when I woke up, it felt like there was this boulder on my chest. Like my body was saying, I have to do this again. I have to force myself. At that time, I had to force myself to exercise, to move, to get in the car and face another day of rejection from all of these doctors and people who I was trying to talk to. Because I was on this mission. I was like, I created this thing. It's meant to change all of orthopedics. And I was really headstrong, really stubborn. And I was like, we're going to do this. And when I woke up feeling like that, I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? Other people can do this all day. Like, why can't I handle it? And here's what I didn't know then. That boulder on my chest wasn't just in my head. It was inflammation. My body had been fighting in fight or flight mode for so long that chronic stress had triggered systemic inflammation. And that inflammation was stealing my energy. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't weak. My body was actually responding intelligently to chronic stress. And so if you've ever woken up after a full night's sleep and you've still felt exhausted, like there's this weight on your chest and you have to carry through every single day of your life and struggle with it, then this episode is for you. Because that kind of fatigue, the kind that sleep doesn't fix, it's not really a sleep problem. It's an inflammation problem. And if you don't know who I am, hi, I'm Dr. Shivani Gupta. This is the Inflammation Code podcast. And my goal is to keep highlighting for you different viewpoints, different integrative models and approaches to our health that we can take. Because sometimes we're asking for answers, but there's no pill for that problem. It's a lifestyle shift. And we have to learn and have awareness of the lifestyle shift to even take it. So today we're going to talk about the fatigue that sometimes your doctor can't explain, and maybe why rest, just straight up resting on the couch, watching TV, is not the answer. So before we dive in, I wanted to say this. If you're listening and you're tired, bone dead tired, I see you. You're not imagining it. You're not lazy. You're not broken. Your body is trying to tell you something. And today we're going to decode that message. And let me tell you that exhaustion actually, let me tell you what exhaustion looked like in my own day-to-day life. I know during that time period, I would wake up and I'd immediately feel dread. Like, oh my God, I need to get caffeine in me now. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And it was not because I hated my work. I believed in what I was building at the time. But my body felt so heavy that the thought of getting out of bed felt impossible. And here's my question. How many of you feel like that? I know that still happens to me sometimes, right? You can wake up and be like, maybe I'm going through a season of not getting good sleep. Like, what is this? What is happening in this moment? So I would just force myself to get up. I'd make that, in my case, green tea. In your case, it might be coffee. I'd look at my schedule for the day. I'd have 4 offices, 5 offices, sometimes 6. I remember days where I would go to Jupiter and South Miami in the same day. And I was like, what am I doing to myself? Am I insane? This is like what pharma reps do. They are road warriors on the road all day long doing this. This is exhausting. This is a burnout job. And I would start to feel my chest tighten. And I'd be like, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to do this for decades until I get this idea off the ground? And here's what made it feel worse for me. I felt guilty because I should have been excited. I was building something. I was an entrepreneur. This was supposed to be the dream, right? Like you grind and then you win. But instead, I felt like I was failing. I'd look in the mirror and I wouldn't even recognize myself. I'd see other people, other business owners, other moms, other women my age. They all seemed fine. They seemed to have this energy to do all this work. And I would think, what's wrong with me? So I went to the doctor and I told her, I'm exhausted all the time. I sleep, but I never feel rested. So she ran some labs. Thyroid, normal. Iron, normal. B12, normal. She looked at me sympathetically and said, you're probably just stressed. Have you tried meditating? Maybe cut back on caffeine. And I wanted to scream. I was like, there must be something happening here. I was going to yoga. I was eating well. I was doing all those things. And I was still exhausted. And the thing is, I'm a practitioner. I'm a practitioner of Ayurvedic medicine. I should have known better. But when you're in it, when you're the one who's struggling, it is so hard to see clearly. It took my husband asking one simple question to shift everything. Shivani, what would you do? What would you tell a client who came to you who felt like this? And that question always makes things click for me. I would tell them to stop pushing through and start asking, what is my body trying to communicate with me? What is my body trying to say? What is actually happening inside of my body? And here's the 3 things that are happening to us. First, chronic stress kept my cortisol elevated, and elevated cortisol triggers inflammation. It also wrecks our sleep quality. So even though I was in bed for 8 hours or 7, I wasn't getting deep restorative sleep. Second, that inflammation was damaging my mitochondria, my cellular power plants. So my body couldn't produce energy efficiently. So on a cellular level, I was starving for fuel. And then third, my immune system was exhausted from constantly fighting inflammation. It was using up all my energy reserves just to keep functioning. And so what was the result? Bone deep fatigue that sleep couldn't fix. Because when inflammation is the problem, rest isn't always the solution. And so here's what I did. I stopped asking myself, how can I sleep more? And I started asking, what's driving the inflammation? I went back to my Ayurvedic training and I looked at my symptoms, not in isolation, but as a system. The fatigue, the digestive issues I'd been ignoring, the joint stiffness, the brain fog, the weight that I couldn't lose. They were all connected. They were all inflammation. So I healed my gut because 70% of my immune system lives there, and leaky gut was fueling systemic inflammation. I supported my mitochondria with targeted nutrients, B vitamins, magnesium, CoQ10, curcumin. I calmed my nervous system with the amazing adaptogens from Ayurveda. I even started creating my own amazing teas because I was like, Ayurveda has the best adaptogens. I want to take them. I want to have a tea type ritual tied to this. And so I started to take adaptogens like ashwagandha, shatavari, brahmi. I mean, there's so many good ones that we have. I started practicing some breath work. Maybe not perfectly on a yoga mat in the morning, but my breath work would happen in the car. I'd be rushing from like Miami to Boca to get to my kids. I'd be like, no noise, no music, no podcast, silence, and breathing. That's what we're doing. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. And so I'm a big believer in do breath work and use it consistently to reset the nervous system. And so with these daily rituals, that finally started to signal safety to my body. I also used my high quality curcumin because when you properly formulate curcumin with black pepper so that it'll absorb, we're addressing inflammation at the root. And sometimes we need that help to really get to that root cause. And within 3 months, that boulder lifted. Not because I slept more, but because I finally addressed all the different ways of what was happening and addressed what was actually wrong. So next, I'm going to tell you a story about a client I had named Natalie. Around 2020, I kicked off my 6-week program and all these amazing women joined year after year, actually 2020, 2021, 2022, those years. And a couple of women from that time period really stand out. And this is a story around where addressing sleep and lifestyle together can really help us get at why we are so dang tired and how we can kind of rebuild from that low point. Maybe you have like mountains and you have peaks. Maybe you're instead of a peak, you're in a valley. In those valleys, in those low moments, we need to pause and assess, bring some awareness to what went left field or right field for us. And then once we have that awareness, then we can start to make a plan for the building back. Recently, I published my new book, The Inflammation Code, and this is a guidebook. It's a guidebook on how to build back vibrant health. And we're talking about those moments. I'm just getting off the flu. I am tired. I am trying to fix my health. But as I do so, I'm coming back to these pillars. I'm like, let's address elemental design, circadian rhythm, gut health, sleep, mindful medicine chest, diet. Like, let's put every pillar back in place and rebuild vibrant health for energy. So I'm going to tell you a story next about my dear client, Natalie, because her story shows what happens when this kind of fatigue, this kind of like bone deep exhaustion goes untreated, and how if we're addressing these root causes, it can literally save your life. And so Natalie came to me after her acupuncturist told her that her acupuncturist actually told her something that stopped her in her tracks. She said, Natalie, you're at risk of developing sleep psychosis from your severely, consistently disrupted sleep psychosis. And when I started working with Natalie, she told me that she'd already tried everything. Supplements, meditation, stress reduction techniques, nothing had worked. And so here's what many people actually don't understand. Depriving someone of sleep is literally considered torture. Sleep deprivation can cause anything from mild symptoms like memory loss to severe side effects like paranoia, hallucinations, and disorientation. And so Natalie was one of the most extreme sleep cases that I had ever seen. So I asked her to walk me through what was happening at night. So I was like, I love investigating this. I love understanding what's going on with people. And here's what became clear very quickly. Natalie was a guffa. In my book, The Inflammation Code, I dive deep into something I call elemental design. And if you're not on YouTube, you can't see me holding up my gorgeous book, but the book is at theinflammationcode.com. And in the book, I break down what is your individual mind-body constitution. We're all primarily air, fire, or earth. And Gupta, which we pronounce Kapha in the West, is an earth person. So she's more earth and water. And that's very important when I illustrate her story to you, because it impacts so much of how we shift her lifestyle to support her health. If you want to know your elemental design, it's at my website. I have a quiz at drshivani.com, Shivani. And you can take the quiz and very quickly come to understand what is your primary constitution. And then an email or two later, you actually get my big, robust quiz so you can fully understand your constitution from many different angles, which is fun. Okay, coming back to my story. Natalie was a Kapha. And in Ayurveda, Kaphas have this big water and earth elements in them. They tend to move slower. They tend to think slower. And they need the most sleep out of all the elemental forces. Typically, they need 8 to 10 hours of deep, uninterrupted sleep. At the time, when I start to sit down and unpack this, her husband, Noah, happened to be a Pitta Vata. That means a fire and air person. Pitta Vatas are constantly in motion. They're light sleepers, early risers, and they require much less sleep. I'm actually a Pitta Vata. I require less sleep. I want that sleep. So here's what's happening every single night in that household. Noah would get up multiple times during the night. And every time he got up, the cats got up. The whole gaggle of cats would follow him. And every time that happened, Natalie would wake up. She needed those 8 to 10 hours of deep sleep, uninterrupted sleep, so she could get enough deep sleep in that time. She also needed a later start to her day during those more kapha times of 6 to 10 a.m. But Noah was getting up multiple times, starting his day with early morning exercise, and the cats were sleeping in their bed. And so this clash in personalities and the difference in needs was a recipe for disaster. Nobody was getting sound sleep, not even the cats. And so let me explain why Natalie's disrupted sleep was so dangerous. During deep sleep, your brain has a waste management system called the glymphatic system. You can think of it as a powerful garbage disposal that uses cerebral spinal fluid to flush out the toxin metabolites, like our amyloid proteins, from our brain tissue. And so here's the critical part. The glymphatic system is 10 times more active during sleep. It's like your brain's nightly cleaning crew. They come out and do it all for us. And so one researcher actually explained it perfectly. They said that the brain only has limited energy at its disposal. And it appears that it must choose between these two different states. Aware, we can either be awake and aware, or we can be asleep and cleaning up. So you can think of it like having a huge house party. You can either entertain the guests or you can clean up the house, but you can't really do both of those things at the same time. And so here's why this matters. Research shows that even one night of missed sleep significantly impairs glymphatic cleansing. And so the average brain can accumulate up to 3 pounds of waste per year if the glymphatic system isn't working efficiently. That means poor sleep can be a contributing factor to quite the significant backup of fluids in the brain, which causes fogginess today, and it causes cognitive decline over time. And so when you think about this, Ayurveda said that we are at a Pitta time of day from 10 to 12 at night, the fire time of day, and we're meant to come through and allow those fires to clean and clear everything out. And modern science is proving that to be true right now. We need that garbage disposal moment to take out the trash. Otherwise, we're just accumulating it. And clearing these waste products, especially the ones linked to Alzheimer's disease and dementia and all these issues, like those beta amyloid plaques, it may keep you from developing this illness. So Alzheimer's can begin 20 to 30 years before your symptoms appear. But you can improve your sleep tonight. And when Natalie's sleep was being disrupted night after night, her brain wasn't getting cleaned. The waste was actually accumulating. And no wonder she was struggling. And I'll highlight this. We kicked off the episode with the kind of fatigue that sleep can't fix. And I know I am talking about sleep right now. But sleep is one of my 6 pillars from Ayurveda, sleep and circadian clock, that's so relevant. And so I do think that when we talk about fatigue, when we talk about inflammation, we do have to bring in sleep again, but from the perspective of if we don't sleep in the right window and in the right way, we're not going to get enough deep sleep to clear inflammation at night. 10 to 2 on the circadian clock is when we clear inflammation. And we need to give the body that opportunity, or we will be in this chronic inflamed state, and thus we will have fatigue. So I wanted to point that out in the middle of the episode in case you're like, hey, you said you were going to talk about not sleep and now you're talking about sleep. That's because it's intertwined. Everything I teach is actually intertwined because these are all the angles at which we can look at inflammation. And my job as a practitioner is to support you and say, where's the problem? Where's the leak? Where are we really inflaming ourselves the most? Let's address that first, and then let's go after the other issues as well. And so here's what we did with Natalie. Step one, we created these deeper sleep states. So I started Natalie on deep sleep tea with adaptogens. I started her on sleep gummies that had GABA, L-theanine, melatonin. GABA is this amino acid that's produced in the brain. It's also found in some foods. And it's often used as an anxiety remedy because it slows down your brain by blocking signals in your brain and spinal cord. It won't necessarily make you sleepy like melatonin can, but it just calms the body by slowing down the central nervous system. And so these supplements helped, the tea helped, but they didn't solve the problem completely. So we tried to create physical separation. That was my step 2. I said the ideal solution in this case would have been for Natalie to sleep in the guest room. But with 2 teenage kids, there was no extra room in the house. And putting up a wall in the living room, which was one of my ideas, or putting a wall up anywhere or adding a temporary curtain wasn't like feasible or practical either. So we had to really get creative. We had to add in movement. That was my step 3. Natalie was a swim coach of all things. Although her job wasn't sedentary, swim coaching is different from swimming. And so we made sure to add vigorous exercise to her daily schedule in the morning because she is a Gupta. And it's extremely important for Guptas to move in the morning and move their energy if we want to improve their sleep, if there is a sleep issue. And step number 4, we created a bedtime routine. And this is where Ayurveda is so powerful. We have such beautiful rituals and tools that are so soothing and healing to the body. And they are multi-purpose because they also detox you. I love a multi-benefit tool. I usually need things to do 2 or 3 things for me at once. So if I'm going to do oil pulling, you better bet I want healthier gut microbiome, healthier oral microbiome. I want like better oral freshness. Like I want 3 benefits out of every act. And that's what I love out of Ayurveda is we have so many benefits to doing these things. And so for Natalie, step 4, we created a bedtime routine. Although her kids were teens by that time, sleeping late and all that, Natalie remembered the calming bedtime routine that she had lovingly created for them when they were little. And so I suggest she treat herself with the same kindness. All of a sudden, the calming music, reading a book at night, mini foot rubs with Ayurvedic oils started happening, and she would create this calm and cozy atmosphere for herself. And that became this inspiration to her to create a sleep routine for herself. So she started using the sleep gummies, an eye mask, self-massage, the ritual of brewing herself a warm mug of deep sleep tea. And she noticed that she started to feel safer, more settled, more soothed, more relaxed, instead of anxious about her sleep when her head hit the pillow. And then step number 5 in this case, Noah got involved. As Natalie's sleep improved, her husband Noah started listening to my sleep module. He could hear it and what she was learning, and he decided to try it out for himself. And what I love is this actually happens a lot. When I teach my programs, a lot of times the women say, it's my husband who's not sleeping, and it's his sleep that's ruining my sleep. I learned that a lot a couple of years ago when I was creating my Ayurvedic sleep tea. Everyone who came up to me was like, do you have something for men? And I was like, let's talk about it. Let's figure this out, guys. With the men, I like to get them on a sleep measuring tool, whether it's the Oura Ring, the Whoop Band, the Apple Watch. Doesn't matter what it is. If we get them on a device and they start to see through data what's working and not working, it gamifies it. It gets it competitive. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I got my sleep score up to 100. It's like, wow, okay, that's profound because your sleeping better is going to improve other people's sleep. It could actually change the nature of the whole household if we all slept better, right? And so as Noah started listening to my sleep module, And as he decided to try it out for himself, things started to shift. He was so into health and fitness. And so that tracking of his sleep quality with his Apple Watch was a game changer. He was surprised to discover a poor sleep score. And pretty soon, Natalie and Noah were working together, figuring out how to meet their individual goals while supporting each other's needs. How cool is that? And here's what I want you to understand from Natalie's story. Your sleep will be impacted by your kids, your partners, your pets. And while you can make improvements on your own, many of my clients have grown in leaps and bounds when they've shared the information with their loved ones. Said, hey, this is your sleep quality issue too. It's just another way to help yourself while helping the others around you, because they just might not have that awareness or understanding yet. And Natalie's body wasn't broken. It was just desperately trying to get the deep restorative sleep it needed to function. And once we addressed the root cause, once we gave her body what it actually needed, everything else started to fall into place. And I will say this, with Natalie, it wasn't just the sleep piece. The sleep was the biggest. That was the first pillar we had to address. But we also addressed Kapha, her elemental design, and how her nature worked, and her understanding of how to build a rhythm into her day that worked for her. We also did a really great detox for inflammation, an anti-inflammatory detox to drop that inflammation down significantly over 21 days so that her body could really reset and move forward. And so it was a multi-pronged approach. And the whole point of this episode today is to talk about fatigue, how it's tied to inflammation, and how when we look at all those symptoms, we can start to see how the symptoms are driving what we're experiencing, and then understand how sovereign and how much control we have over creating change. And so if Natalie's story resonates with you, if you are struggling with your sleep or fatigue and you're not sure where to start, I do offer free discovery calls, 20-minute calls. And I also do full practitioner sessions where we can investigate what's happening in your body. And we can create a personal plan, a game plan for you. And so you can find more information on that on my website, because sleep issues and fatigue are rarely one size fits all. Your body is unique. And sometimes you need someone who can help you connect the dots, someone from the outside who can look in and say, you know what? Are you seeing all this? I see these things are tied together. So let's bring this back to you. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I sleep enough, so why am I still exhausted? Here's what you need to understand. Fatigue that sleep doesn't fix isn't a sleep problem. It is an inflammation problem. And we need to look at it that way because it shows up in really specific ways. You wake up tired even after 8.5 hours of sleep, or 8+ hours of sleep, or even 6+ hours of sleep. This is the hallmark sign. So if you're going to bed at 10 and you're sleeping through the night and you're waking up at 6, but you feel like you didn't sleep at all, that's not sleep deprivation. In Ayurveda, we understand that sleep is when the body does its deepest healing, clearing our metabolic waste, repairing our tissue, restoring balance. When inflammation is present, it interferes with that restoration process. It gets in the way of everything. And your body can't complete its nightly reset. And that's why no amount of sleep feels like enough. It's actually about the quality of that sleep. And there's ways to address that. Sign number 2, you hit a wall in the afternoon. Around 2 to 3 p.m., you feel like you could fall asleep at your desk. You need caffeine just to function. That's your body telling you, I'm running on empty. I don't have the cellular fuel I need to keep going. And then sign number 3, you feel wired but tired. You're exhausted, but you can't fall asleep. Or you fall asleep, but you wake up at 3 a.m. with your mind racing. That's inflammation affecting your cortisol rhythms and your nervous system. Sign number 4, everything feels harder than it should. Walking up the stairs, thinking clearly, having a conversation. It all feels like you're moving through cement. That's systemic inflammation draining your energy reserves. Sign number 5, you feel guilty because you should have more energy. You look around and see other people your age managing just fine. And you think, What's wrong with me? What's happening? Nothing is wrong with you. Your body is responding intelligently to an imbalance inside. And that's where Ayurveda comes in. We have a lot of solutions for this. So what do? You stop trying to fix the fatigue and you start addressing the inflammation. Here's where we can begin. Step number 1, heal your gut. Your gut is where 70% of your immune system lives. So when your gut lining is compromised, when you have leaky gut, undigested food particles and toxins start to leak into your bloodstream and into your system. So your immune system sees them as invaders and it starts to attack. That creates systemic inflammation, and that inflammation drains your energy. So we can start simple by removing inflammatory foods, things like gluten, dairy, processed sugar, and bring in gut healing foods like bone broth, fermented veggies, wild-caught fish, bringing in that fish oil. Step number 2 is support your mitochondria. Your mitochondria need specific nutrients to function. Things like B vitamins, magnesium, CoQ10, omega-3s. You can take great B vitamin supplements. In my line, we have a bee gummy that's really yummy. So taking your Bs can be really helpful to bring that B vitamin level up. Because when your gut's inflamed, you're not absorbing these nutrients properly. So your mitochondria starve. So fix this by healing the gut and providing that targeted nutritional support that your cells need to function well. And I think about this a lot. I go through seasons myself. I just did launching my book where I push and burn on both ends of the candle. And then my body's like, hello, I need help. What are you doing? And it truly feels like a starving from the inside. Like we're eating, we're doing things, but we are starving ourselves. And that's what I'm like, oh, B vitamins. Oh yeah, magnesium. Oh yeah, omega-3. Oh yeah, turmeric. Like let's go down that list and win at inflammation and nutrition so the bodies aren't starving. The body's cells and mitochondria aren't starving. Step number 3, calm your nervous system. Chronic stress keeps inflammation elevated. Your body can't heal when it's in fight or flight mode 24/7. So add in practices that activate the parasympathetic nervous system. In Ayurveda, we talk about breath work, gentle movement, yoga, meditation. We talk about adaptogens like ashwagandha. We talk about rituals that signal safety to your body. And so you'll hear me all the time online talk about Ayurvedic self-care rituals because truly they are a foundation to building a rhythm and living within your circadian rhythm. You'll hear me talk a lot about tea time is me time. I have no teacup with me right now, but normally I talk about tea time is me time because that's an anchor moment, mindful moment, sacred ritual moment we can have with ourselves. You can have it with coffee. I love it with tea. And I do that 5 or 6 times a day because I need it that much for my nervous system, for the speed at which I choose to build my life. And so I really want to highlight that you can really drop into your parasympathetic nervous system any which way. It's about what way works for you. Could be journaling every day. Like really, I invite you to build a practice here. Step number 4, build a daily rhythm. The circadian clock from Ayurveda, circadian rhythm. Your body responds to consistency. So when you go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, eat at regular intervals, not skipping meals, and you move your body daily, you're giving your body the predictability that it needs to heal. So inflammation thrives in chaos. Healing thrives in rhythm. And that's a big one. Step number 5, use targeted supplementation. So this is where high quality bioavailable supplements come in. If you know me, my PhD is on turmeric. I'm the turmeric girl, and I'm a super fan of using turmeric. Curcumin is the active compound in turmeric, and I'm a big believer in taking it in the right way, at the highest potency, at the right proportion to actually get a result. And so if you have any questions on that, you can visit my website to learn more. I talk a lot about turmeric. Because when inflammation is driving your fatigue, then targeted anti-inflammatory support can be life-changing. Not because it masks the fatigue, but because it actually gets to the root cause of the problem. And so let's imagine this. 6 months from now, you wake up, and the first thing you notice is you actually feel rested, not groggy, not heavy, not like you need to hit the snooze button 3 more times, just clear, awake, ready. You get out of bed and your body moves with you. There's no stiffness. There's no cement-like heaviness. You make your coffee not because you need it to survive the day, but because you enjoy it. You move through your morning and you notice. You're not counting down the hours until you can take a nap. And afternoon hits, and instead of crashing, you're still going. You're sharp, you're focused, you're present. Evening comes, and yes, you're tired, but it's a good kind of tired. And that kind that says, you know what, I've used my energy well today, and you go to bed and you fall asleep easily. You sleep deeply. You wake up rested. And over time, you realize you're not managing fatigue anymore. You're living your life. You have energy for your kids, your work, your relationships, yourself. You don't feel guilty for being tired because you're not tired anymore. You gave your body what it actually needed, and your body responded. So let me leave you with the key points from today. Point 1, fatigue that sleep doesn't fix is your body trying to tell you something. It's not laziness. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's inflammation. Point number 2, inflammation steals your energy in 3 specific ways. It damages your mitochondria, so your cells can't produce the fuel you need. It exhausts your immune system, and it disrupts your hormones and your sleep quality. That's number 3. Point 3, your body isn't broken. It's actually out of balance. And when you address that root cause, when you heal your gut, when you support your mitochondria, when you calm your nervous system, when you build that circadian rhythm and you use targeted support, then your energy comes back. And then point number 4, healing is cumulative. It's not instant. I know we want everything instant, but this doesn't happen overnight. It does happen consistently and thus cumulatively. And so here's your homework this week. Step number 1, acknowledge the fatigue. Write it down. I am tired, not because I'm lazy, but because something is out of balance. Step number 2 is notice the patterns. When is your fatigue the worst? Pay attention. Is it after your meals? Is it in the afternoon? Is it after stress? Start connecting the dots. I have noticed this for myself. Based on the lunch I take to work, I get so sleepy after. 2 o'clock hits, my brain stops working. I'm like, whoa, okay. You need a task list called you've lost half your brain at 2 o'clock. What is that? What is the shift that needs to happen here? In the evenings, you can't get off the couch and like finish up your responsibilities, housework and things. Like really pay attention to the timing. And then you can break down what is causing it. And then choose one action this week. Go to bed 30 minutes earlier. Remove 1 inflammatory food. Add 10 minutes of breath work when you wake up. Start a high-quality anti-inflammatory supplement. There's lots of options. But take one action, one signal to your body that says, I'm listening. Your fatigue is real. Your fatigue is valid. And your fatigue is your body speaking. And it's time to listen. And if you're looking for ways to start practicing these techniques, choosing the one action, I have a 7-day inflammation detox I made for this. And I actually plan to kick off doing it in February because I need it for myself. I actually need it probably quarterly. The reminder, the reset, the redo. And so I encourage you to check out my website, 7dayinflammationdetox.com. And you can join me for that inflammation detox. And we're going to run it in my Facebook group. This is a lot of links I've given you in one podcast. You're probably like, what is this girl doing today? But it's all top of mind because I'm about to do that challenge live in my Natural Remedies Tribe Facebook group, which if you sign up for any of my emails, you'll see a link. But I'm doing it live because I think it's so much more fun to do it together. It holds us accountable. It encourages us to do the work and to do it in community. Because sometimes it's lonely to do all these healthy things and try to do a reset. So we're going to do it together as a group. And if you're listening to this episode way past February 2026 and you're like, what happened? I will forever be running detoxes in that Facebook group. Let's be honest. We all need it. It's a key piece of Ayurvedic wisdom to detox at a quarterly level before each season. So this is the work that we must do on our health journey forever. And so let's come back to what I was talking about. Your fatigue is real. Your fatigue is valid. And your fatigue is your body speaking. It's time to listen. Next week, we're diving into brain fog and why it's not all in your head. Until then, rest well. Know that you're not broken. You're just out of balance. And balance can be restored. It can be restored anytime. And that's what I'm all about is let's reset, restore, and restart, recalibrate, and feel like our best selves because we deserve that every single day. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Your reviews help other women who are struggling with fatigue find this show, men or women, and they help me know what's landing with you. If you know someone who's exhausted all the time, who keeps hearing, you just need more sleep, share this episode with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to let someone know you're not alone. And there's a reason for this. You can find show notes, transcripts, all the resources I mentioned on my website at drshivani.com. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can head there as well to find my discovery calls, my practitioner sessions, etc. I'll see you next week on the podcast. This is Dr. Shivani Gupta, and this is the Inflammation Code. Stay well, everyone.